Hey everyone, welcome back to another SUPboarder feature. I have a really casual talk with Ross, who has been helping me with my own downwind SUPfoiling technique as part of my downwind SUPfoiling technique vlog series. In this chat, me and Ross just talk about his foiling experience and where he's going with his downwind foiling journey and what he's been up to. It's a really interesting watch or listen because Ross has had a really open-minded approach and has really, I think, had to reset and reprogram his thinking about what the downwind journey is for a busy mid-40s guy with a couple of kids. Ross has been really focusing on all of the other disciplines of stand-up paddleboarding, so SUP surfing, SUP surf foiling, and a little bit of light wind winging, as well as some flat water paddle ups. Most of the sessions that he's doing are in those disciplines, but it is still all working towards that downwind objective, that downwind goal. And I think social media has really probably programmed our minds to think that downwinding is just blasting off and just doing downwinding. But we really need to develop all the skills that we need for downwinding, which we can get from a lot of much more accessible disciplines. So I found this a really interesting conversation. I hope you do as well, and I hope you can relate to it as people who are out in the real world trying to figure out this downwind thing. Let us know what you think in the comments, and I hope you enjoy it.
You've been doing a bit of foiling yourself?
Yeah, I've been doing way more kind of entrance into downwinding. So I bought a second-hand downwind board that's 8'2" by about 18.5, about 6.5 inches thick. I don't even know the exact dimensions, but I know that it's relatively narrow and long. I've put the prone board aside for the moment, and I'm really excited about getting as many sessions in on that big long board. And I'm on a Armstrong 1880 HA V2 with 180 tail. I'm just really enjoying it, like the change from prone to trying SUP in waves, in chop, on flat water, and just really enjoying the learning curve that's put in front of me at the moment. So in a really happy place. One, having finally got hold of a downwind board, but two, just developing that skill set that I need for downwinding. Doing a little bit of winging on that as well, on that board. But it just feels so versatile to be able to do so many different things on it, from shore runners to SUP sessions to downwind sessions.
It's good because I think you're seeing the benefit of going to do a bit of SUP surf foiling to really support your entry into downwinding. And I guess it's a little bit of a steep learning curve to get into the SUP surf foiling initially, isn't it? But sounds like you're, it's that initial investment's paid off and you're enjoying it.
Yeah, I think there's always the realization that when you do go out into lumps and, say you paddle out for a downwind run, which I've done a couple of with the guys up here in Bude, there's realization that it feels very different when you're out in bumps, and you're having to paddle up on a less than ideal bump. Whereas in the surf, you're waiting on a swell line to come in. Particularly if you have a surf background, you're waiting for that swell, and then you're paddling up onto the wave, even if it hasn't broken, which is how you want to catch it. And it's way more familiar feeling paddling up onto the wave rather than paddling up onto a bump. But if you're going to go out and practice anything and you're somewhere where you've got waves, then what I'm really enjoying with a surfing background is being able to catch waves or swell, like unbroken swell, twice the distance out to sea away from the beach than I previously could. So I'm way further out than, the pack of surfers. Further down the beach, you can see that I'm a lot further out. And I'm catching waves like twice the distance out than I previously would. And that's kind of blowing my mind a little bit as a surfer, because you're putting in 2, 3, like 4 cutbacks and turns, and you're still on an unbroken face. It reminds me, out of everything, it reminds me of performance longboarding most, but I'm finding even on this 8'2" board, swing rate's there, but it's I quite like it. I like the swing weight of the board. It gives you like a real, I was going to say cruisy, but that gives the impression that it's like perhaps a little bit, more relaxed longboarding style, but you can still cut tight turns on those longer boards. Swing weight isn't a problem.
Yeah. I mean, you just look at some of the videos that you see coming out of the gorge with the guys really ripping around and on 8 foot boards, and you're like, yeah, you can throw those things around, and it can be quite performance if you want it to. So yeah, it's good to hear that you're enjoying it. Yeah, I think it's quite interesting because I still feel like I'm progressing my downwinding by doing these flat water sessions, and I've probably done twice as many flat water sessions just perfecting the elements, some of these foundation skills as I have downwinders. But as I say, I still feel like I'm progressing my downwinding, and downwinding is really, really quite a complicated and challenging discipline of foiling and paddleboarding, but it's in a weird way, it's quite accessible for typical sort of middle-aged person who hasn't got a lot of time because they've got family, job, everything else going on in their lives, which is quite ironic, I think.
Yeah, I think it's quite a still pretty niche in that people are probably like coming to middle age. You can one afford kit just about. Two, you've got a background of being interested in this kind of thing and a lot of water sports, different water sports backgrounds. And three, you've got the motivation and the want to do this. I think sometimes people see downwinding, myself included, you see downwinding as a sport in itself that and by that I mean like the way that you see it in your head, that I'm going to go downwinding today. But what I'm realising, like the more time I spend downwinding, in inverted commas, is actually time trying to flat water paddle up, working on my technique, trying to figure out my technique, prone surfing, and just getting better at pumping in that situation, which is a bit more hectic with waves, winging, and paddling out on an onshore day with spray in my face as you paddle out, trying to get out as far as I possibly can, and just trying to ride lumps back in or swell back in, be it a lump or swell, whatever it is. I'm trying to stand up in choppy conditions and ride somewhere.
Yeah.
Or even just surfing on my stand-up foil board, just surfing and getting used to how that foil rides with the 8 foot board on it. That's more what downwinding is for me, 90% of the time. And I've had a fair few goes at it, but realistically, that's what I'm doing most of the time. Now and then, I'll get and also the conditions, which we haven't mentioned much about. The conditions will align that, okay, I'm going to have a go at a downwind run here across the coast a bit. It might end up as a shore runner where I end up running back along the coast, or it might turn into a couple of kilometres where it actually works out. But the idea of downwinding, I think perhaps social media is probably a little bit part of this. The idea of downwinding is the idea that people get is that you're riding for kilometres upon kilometres of downwind, perfect conditions. You're not coming off foil and you do it in one. Oh, that was an amazing session. But the reality is, for a middle-aged guy, particularly, I feel like in the UK, it's more about just having fun and being humble and having that learning curve in front of you all the time. That one day you might get a downwind run. It's like you go home and tell your wife, "Oh yeah, it was really good actually. I did stay up and foil and have that great run." But most of the time, it's putting all these components together and
it's developing your skills in not downwinding conditions to allow you to downwind when the conditions are right and you're available to go downwinding around life.
Absolutely. And you've got that other variable of other people being available at the same time, or even having a car to be able to. I mean, all these things are very difficult in very few people's lives.
Yeah.
To be able to line up. So the idea of downwinding is something I think I need to get almost out of my head and just enjoy doing all of these different components of doing different stuff on a big board, a long, narrow board with a foil on the bottom.
And in a way, doing all these things on a long board with a bigger foil on it make SUP surf foiling more accessible and kind of more fun, because like you talked about earlier, you can go out in less than ideal conditions. You can get away from the crowds by catching the unbroken wave, something you can't do on a prone foil. Yeah, maybe you could do it on a foil drive, but you can just kind of maximize the fun that you have in the time period that you have.
Absolutely, yeah. I think foils that certainly for me are great for their versatility of, if there's a bit of a wave on our local beach and it's not ideal, but there is 2 or 3 foot of surf, and I want to work on my downwinding, but the conditions aren't downwinding conditions, you can still go out and you get like these middle ground sessions where don't get to like rip on a prone board, but you can paddle into a wave twice as far out as you previously did. You get more time up on foil, and you might cover 500 meters across the beach, trying to run down the coastline and then pumping back out and connecting with waves as you go. Surely that's going to help you downwinding, whatever downwinding is, but surely that's going to help the ideal. It's going to help you get to that place, which is the ideal of downwinding, where you're doing a 20-kilometer run and not coming off foil. Like,
yeah. I
That's
think what you say about how social media has created this different perception in us is quite interesting, because really the word, everyone uses the word journey, don't they? But it is a bit of a journey, and the downwinding bit is the goal that you have in mind the whole time. Like, I'm not someone who likes getting really out of breath and going for a run or anything like that, but I get really out of breath when I do some flat water paddle ups, because I'm kind of motivated by the ability that's going to mean that I can, because I really want to be able to do a really long downwinder. That's like a really big goal of mine. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know that if I go out, I'm chipping away at that objective.
Yeah, I think sometimes you have these like pleasant like coincidences almost. Like, 'cause I know that sounds cheesy, but where you go out on your SUP board and your SUP paddle, and you go like to have a surf session, you end up covering way longer like across the coast distance than you thought you would, and you're just getting better all the time. You're getting better at these like really key important techniques that you need to be able to put to that dream that you have in your head of, like James Casey or one of those guys flying downwind at ridiculous speeds and covering like tens of kilometers. Also, it's for like generally people that are into foiling, I think, are probably pretty obsessive. I'd say generally people that I've certainly come across, and having that ultimate idea, a dream in your head, aim in your head, kind of lends itself to downwinding, which is why you get so into it, because you've always got that like ideal in your head, even if you're going and it's like an awful brown canal with like windy conditions and it's freezing cold. You've still got that dream going on in your head, that all of that goes towards that sunny day where you're it's 20 miles an hour wind and the bumps are lovely and you're flying downwind. I think it all helps you towards that, and it really does feel like it is helping you towards that, probably a little tiny bit, but it doesn't really matter how little. It just feels like you're moving in the right direction. You can do something towards the downwind dream, rather than just being some like handsome guy on Maui that's got it all sorted and goes out every day doing that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely suits me, because I'm quite a sort of goal orientated person. Like, if I go out doing something, sometimes I struggle with just going out to do something to enjoy it. I always feel like I need to be doing it for a purpose, and because if I've got a bit of time, I can do that little bit of flat water paddling up, and I know that it's helping my overall goal. So it's super cool. I like it. Glad you're enjoying it too.
I love it. I'm obsessed by
it. It's like, we'll have to start foiling anonymous.
Yes, but I was thinking Fight Club, that film Fight Club's a bit like that, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Dirty habit. Okay.
Cool. All right, let's wrap it up. We've bored people with our foiling chat too much, probably, but I hope everyone's enjoyed it. Let us know, and we'll do more of it if we want to, and hopefully we'll catch up soon for a foiling session.
Nice one, Will. Thanks very much.
Nice one.
Cheers, bye.